But
I disagree with that. I don't believe good cops exist.
Oh, really? At all?
Hot take.
No. I'm gonna expand on this a little bit.
So we're gonna get into the discussion of the week, and this is I really got obsessed with the Black Panthers after I watched Judas and the Black Messiah 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, there's another story that kind of leads into this that I read.
Oh yes, please.
A real national treasure, Michael Harriot at the root. So the story was by means fair or foul, America's conspiracy to assassinate Black Power. So this story talked about, it's a kind of long article, but it explains how J. Edgar Hoover, being a racist from the beginning, turned the FBI into an investigative body for everything radical, aka Black. Mm-hmm. So some little factoids from that article is that his frat brother wrote the screen adaptation for The Klansman, and his boss screened it at his office. And the same boss is the one that organized the screening of that racist movie, Birth of a Nation, at the White House for President Woodrow Wilson. So the office was first in charge of investigating communists, but once World War I was over, they needed a new target. So ever since then, many atrocities, including every major assassination of a great Black leader, had an FBI informant involved. We're talking about killing poll workers, paying off the Klan to bomb Birmingham 16th Street Baptist Church in 1963 before little girls were killed. There was a Klansman. There was a guy that the FBI paid to join the Klan so he could start trouble. The assassination of MLK, it had an informant in it. The assassination of Malcolm X, informant in it. Mm-hmm. And the assassination of Fred Hampton, as we see in the movie, also had an informant in it, which is the informant that was paid to help assassinate him, who, if you saw the movie, ended up committing suicide at the end.
Wow, spoiler.
I was gonna say, I mean, it happened in 1989. Come on now.
It's new to me. It's new to me.
Bro, I haven't finished Titanic. Don't tell me how it ends.
So let's get a quick synopsis of the Judas and the Black Messiah without giving spoilers like Carlito. It's just a story.
What the hell? It's historical.
It's the story of Fred Hampton, the chairman of the Illinois Black Panther Party.
So many people didn't know about it, but it's historical, something that should be taught. You know,
the significance was of really seeing at that young age,
21,
Fred Hampton being able to bring people together, but at the same time, the ideas that he had in his head. And spoiler alert, to get assassinated like that at that young age, only 21 years old.
What were we doing at 21? Making bad decisions.
I'm here.
So by the way, I was listening to I was doing a lot of research and listening to different videos, and I found out that J. Edward Hoover had him on their radar 6 months before the Black Panthers were even formed. So his assassinated happened in 1969. Black Panthers was formed, I believe it was 66 or 67. I think Black Panthers for self-defense was formed. And by the way, here's another tidbit. There were other Black Panthers, quote unquote, organizations. That's why the Black Panthers was called Black Panthers for Self-Defense. That was their original name, and then later on they just dropped it for self-defense and they became the main Black Panthers. But J. Edgar Hoover he sent a letter to the CIA, he sent a letter to the president, and he sent a letter to the Department of the Army about this young guy in Illinois who was doing speeches. So it's like, wow, man, this guy, that tells me that the FBI has way too much money even back then. Oh. Like how are you paying attention to these little, these people like that? What you think, Bendo?
I mean, I think this movie is one example of those many examples that Carlitos was just talking about in his articles of how their reach started everywhere, how they're in the back end paying people off and just really trying to create terror in America, where Carlito, there is no terror. Sorry. It's all about, at least with Fred Hampton, trying to unite the different people, right? The Rainbow Coalition.
Yeah,
imagine how strong that could have been.
Carlito, you was about to say something?
Yeah, I was going to mention the Christian Davis in the chat was saying Hoover came into power in 1924, 4 or 5 years of the Palmer race, but he was actually working from the Library of Congress in 1913, and from there he was almost recruited because he was so diligent to work for the Bureau of Investigation in 1917. So since 1917, he was involved in all this kind of stuff in the Bureau of Investigation. He might have not been the boss, but he was very influential, and that's why he eventually got to become the leader. Because after he was there for the World War One, they were investigating all the radicals for communism. After the World War One ended, they needed to, he had a large organization with nothing to do, and then he turned his sights into black radicals.
So let's get to the heart of the conversation. So I was watching a lot of different videos on Fred Hampton, and I'm about to play this video, and it made me think of if Fred Hampton was alive today and he was a great coalition builder, right? Would he say all lives matter? That's the question. So I'm going to play this video right here.
Okay, you put your hands down now. We say all power to all people. We say white power to white people. Brown power to brown people. Yellow power to yellow people. Black power to black people. X power to those that we left out.
That's pretty much it right there.
That's the problem. As soon as he said that, that's where he becomes dangerous. They didn't kill Dr. King when he was talking about, black rights and civil rights. It was when he started talking about the Poor People's Coalition and same thing here. That's the real danger. It's not. It's about when you start uniting the working class and you start getting people to realize that the problem isn't the other races and it's not the people that you didn't grow up with, that the problem is actually the system that can manage to pay you a starvation wage to work harder than some people that might make 10 times that. There's nobody that's going to tell me here that a day laborer that works hard, it works, less hard than somebody who works in an office, so it's things like that once people start realizing that, that's where you start getting the threats of like an uprising, and maybe you start voting out people because now they start registering people to vote and they start voting out the politicians that are corrupt and taking money. And as soon as anything grassroots like that happens, that's they kill it. That's the same reason why Bernie Sanders was a problem, because he was talking about the system versus versus anything else, versus the platitudes. So when you see people like this and like Fred Hampton, they couldn't allow him to build that movement anymore. 21 years old, like Badon said, it's crazy.
The breakfast programs for the kids. The scene where he goes into, to your point, Gabe, right, where he walks into the guys like, our kids are going to the same school as your kids, and we have needs. Like it's bigger than us. We want to build something bigger than that.
I want to play a video that kind of touch on what you're talking about right now, and then I want to talk about literally if Fred Hampton was here today, what I think he would say.
They're constantly bothering the people. Anybody that's out there for the protection of the people happens to be in direct conflict with them. What makes them mad about it? What makes them mad about it is that they had black people and white poor people and red poor people and Puerto Rican poor people and Latin American Puerto Rican people of poor people of all descents. They had them caught up in movements based on racism when the Black Panther Party stood up and said that we don't care what anybody says. We don't think you fight fire with fire best. We think you fight fire with water best. We're going to fight racism, not with racism, but we're going to fight with solidarity. We said we're not going to fight capitalism with black capitalism, but we're going to fight it with socialism. We stood up and said we're not going to fight reactionary pigs and reactionary state's attorneys like this and reactionary state's attorneys like Hanrahan with any other reactions on our part. We're going to fight their reactions where all of us people are getting together and have an international proletarian revolution. Right on. Right on. And that's saying all power to the people. Right on. That's saying that no matter what color you are, there's only two classes. And that's saying there's a class over here and there's a class over there. And the reason that this class over here has never did anything to get this class off its back, because this is lower, this is upper, this is the oppressed, this is the oppressor, this is the exploited, this is the exploiter. And these people in this class have divided themselves. They say, I'm black and I hate white people. I'm white and I hate black people. I'm Latin American and I hate hillbillies. I'm hillbilly and I hate Indians. So we fighting amongst each other. And you've heard the testimony of pigs here, and you got pigs of all colors. You know that. You got pigs that are white. You got pigs that are black. You even got pigs that are black and white. Propagating the same type of madness that this buffoon Hanrahan would be propagating if he were here himself. And why? Because they want to keep you to believing that I'm your enemy, and that everybody else that's black and that wears a lot of hair on his head and hair on his face, they want to keep you thinking that he's your enemy. Why? Because if ever you would disregard him and overlook him just for a minute and throw away that question of racism and started to dealing with a little logic, then there would be no one else you could attack other than Hanrahan, other than Daley, and other than Tricky Dicky Nixon.
Tricky Dicky Nixon. I love when you said that. Yeah, man. It just amazes me how articulate he was about the different races that are out there, that they're putting us against each other by race and by class. So this is my prediction, right? If he was around today, first of all, let's talk about somebody that got bad consequences for saying all lives matter, and that was Martin O'Malley. If you guys remember back in 2015 when Bernie first ran, it was Bernie Sanders, Hillary Clinton, Martin O'Malley, and a couple other people that just do not matter. And they were at a convention, and Martin, he said protesters came from the audience, and they were shouting Black Lives Matter, and he said all lives matter. And man, when he said all lives matter, that was it. That was it. He had to come back later and apologize. But I'm wondering, if Fred Hampton was around today, how would he articulate a all lives matter, Black Lives Matter? What would he say with the movement that's going on right now? And I think that he would want to say, just like how he did right there, brown lives matter, Black lives matter. Today, people say trans lives matter. I think he would want to bring that coalition in a way and market it in a way where saying all lives matter was not a negative thing, but was a positive thing.
I think the problem with the people that say all lives matter now is that they trying to minimize the struggles of other races. They want to say, well, all lives matter. What can you say? Black lives are not more important than other lives, when in fact what they're saying is all lives matter, but all lives cannot matter until Black lives matter also.
Yeah.
And that's where they're trying to flip the script and make you sound bad. The same way when people kneel against police brutality, they say, oh, you're disrespecting the flag. They're always trying to change it to a different point of view where it plays better in the media for their racist views, and they try to make everybody else look bad. But in reality, when people say Black Lives Matter, they're saying, please, can Black Lives Matter also?
No, I hear you, and I totally agree with you, and I don't want to take away from Black Lives. That's not what this conversation is about. I'm not trying to change their messaging or anything. I'm just curious, what would an inclusive messaging look like in today's day?
I'm saying he will say it, but that the way that people clip videos to try to make him look bad, you know what I'm saying? He will say it the way he said it there. He say this lives matter, and this lives matter, and this lives matter, and this lives matter, therefore all lives matter. Yeah. But over here, the way we do social media nowadays is just going to clip it and say yellow lives matter, and then that's it. And they're going to be like,
they're going to try to take stuff out of context, right? That's the biggest thing that happens nowadays with social media is I'm going to find that 10-second spiel of what you said, forget everything that you had before, ignore the conversation, and then just start to attack you. He said this, and that's what he meant by it. There's nobody else is right, and let's shove it in people's faces.
I think he absolutely would say all lives matter, but I think he, like Carlito was saying, he'd put an asterisk on it. He would say, because all lives matter, inherently Black lives must matter. And Twitter warriors would cancel him immediately. They would just, he said all lives matter, he's not on our side. But really, I think it's beyond that. I think if you drop him in today, if you let him live his life, the world could look much different had he survived. Had he been, 70 years old, 60 years old right now? 80? He would have seen the internet. He would have gotten his message to parts of the world, to parts of the country who had never heard him or never be able to hear him. And now, thanks to movies like this and documentations and dramatizations, all of that, some of his message can be heard today, 60, 80 years after, and it's still more relevant today than it was at that moment in time. If not, it's just something that's universal and something that, had he been permitted to live out his life in a real way, could have changed the world for the better.
100%. I'm looking at Nancy said to add all lives matter kind of changes the subject. She put Black Lives Matter to me was a specific response to a specific phenomenon. And I totally agree with you, Nancy. I'm just curious, what if the messaging from the beginning was a all lives matters, in the sense that, hey, Black Lives Matters too. Like, one of the way to diffuses Black Lives Matter is those white people or people saying Blue Lives Matter, or they're saying all lives matter, right? But what if from the very beginning, you had that Fred Hampton mentality in mind and say, hey, I want to try to build coalition, because they're all white people who die from the cops' hands right now. You don't hear about it as often, and it doesn't blow up maybe as often or as big as a brutal murder that always happens to the black community. But as I'm going to play videos of the young patriots who were young white Appalachian men back in the day with Fred Hampton, who they built a rainbow coalition with. I'm just curious, that would have diffused that other side of the argument if they came out with all lives matter from the beginning. What you guys think about that?
Now, I'm not going to answer your question. I was just as you were talking about it, I was also thinking, are we saying, would we take Fred at that age where he is and plop him in here today, or what are we saying after him being alive, through the progression of time, his involvement, the movement that he could have led possibly, would have he said something differently when it comes to all lives matter? Is that also the
I'm curious. Well, first of all, we saw Bobby Rush. he endorsed what's his name, Bloomberg. So like, I would hope that Fred Hampton didn't change his values over time. But so let's just say that he did not, and he just continued to live his life. I would be curious to see if he would messaged the movement that we are right now as, you know, all lives matters from the beginning.
Well, Nancy Venture said that maybe they should have added two, which I agree. Usually, I don't care much for trying to message the things, package them super nicely, because the haters are gonna hate no matter what. Yeah, but I do think that if it would have been Black Lives Matter too, some of the pushback wouldn't have been there. The haters were gonna hate, but at least in the media, you wouldn't have the same questions again and again and again. Like, what does Black Lives Matter more? The blacks, like, you know, I think it would have diffused at least some of those attacks.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point. That's very. Let me play a couple videos and we'll come back to the conversation.
The motto of the Black Panther Party was all power to all the people. Not all power to some of the people, all the people. Come on in, listen, y'all can sit down.
Children. I want to show this video. This is a video of a former FBI.
In the gang intelligence unit, our unit. This is all gang crime stuff.
Oh,
they went in where
Chicago
the people
police
were doing breakfast programs. Busted eggs out of the refrigerator on the walls. They poured flour and busted eggs in the flour. They unnecessarily set back something that was a legitimate breakfast program. But that dry run, they were so frustrated because of who they were looking for was not there that day. And that was the day I decided that I didn't want to be in that unit anymore.
Hey, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that for a minute. So here's a Chicago police man, and we always demonize the police, but yeah, there are a few good ones here and there. You know, I wish they had some kind of coalition of the good police who speak out against the bad police, but we know they're going to get shot probably, most likely. But
I disagree with that. I don't believe good cops exist.
Oh, really? At all?
Hot take.
No. I'm gonna expand on this a little bit.
Okay.
To be a good cop, you have to stand up for what you believe in. You have to protect and you have to serve. If you are not protecting through the branch that is your brothers in arm, other police officers, then you are not a good police officer. It does not matter if you save every single person in your district, if the sitting across from you casually like pulls racial slurs out of his ass and hurts people and even murders someone and gets away with it, you cannot consider yourself a good cop if you don't do something about it. And doing something about it leads to being terminated, leads to being fired, boycotted, and completely thrown out of the equation, which leads to the statement, all cops are bastards. All cops are bad. There is not a good cop.
Okay. I'm gonna agree, because I was kind of disagreeing with you until the end, because there have been documented good cops, but they have been ostracized or set up for murder themselves, or killed, or drugs planted on them, or fired somehow. So there might be no good cops, but it's only because the good cops get taken out.
Well, we see it right here with this video. You know, he said he requests to go to another unit after he witnessed them just going, urinating on these eggs and just throwing up. They were trying to look. They were under the pretense, quote unquote, of looking for some. I think they were looking for somebody, or looking for arms, and they didn't find it. But then they just destroyed all the free breakfast program, all the food and material for no good reason. So here's a good guy that's in the cops, and he said, "You know what? I'm just going to leave."
The question is, did he leave and retire, or was he able to successfully
went to another unit,
to a different unit?
Yeah, I don't know if he retired, but he looked like, it sounds to me like he successfully went to another unit, because let me play that video back just so I could look at the year. Hold on 1 second.
Our unit. This is all.
Okay, so he said he was in the Chicago Police Department from 1965 to 1991. So he stayed in there.
Yeah. So some chat love. Christian Davis was saying, as strict Maoists, Huey and Bobby said that this in their books, that they spend hours on dialectics and phrases. And I honestly don't think that the Black Panther Party would have ever signed on to BLM or even defund the Popo. I kind of disagree, because defund the Popo is really something that they would love from the beginning. So I disagree in that part, at least. SF Sama says all lives matter kind of sounds pro-life to me, or maybe some lives matter more. So all lives matter. It could be co-opted right there by the Christian right. Okay. You got to make a distinction between the people and the pigs, and some other chats in there. So I think as far as the defund the police, I think they would definitely be pro that. The Black Lives Matter, maybe they would have been more qualified with their statements with Black Lives Matter too. They might have said all lives matter in an expanded form. But definitely defund the police. They might say,
I don't know that they would have. I think they would have heard defund the police, and they would have made it dismantle the police.
They would have said
I don't think
the police.
They would have stayed with something so passive as defund them, give them a little less money, give money elsewhere. They would go dismantle the system,
abolish,
change everything about
it. I'm for
don't
that
leave
too.
anything about it. I don't think they would have gone for something as soft as defund.
But I compromise with the defund. But if they were to get rid of, because I tell you, and we talked about this in the chat before, I spent a lot of time thinking about what do I need cops for preemptively. They don't really stop much. They don't, you could have cops, detectives to come after the fact and investigate crimes, investigate murders. But as facts of cops, they don't do a lot of preventive anything at all. They don't stop anything. So they're kind of useless.
So I would say this from my research of the Black Panthers, they advocated police to not patrol black neighborhoods. That was one of the things, and they were complaining about, our taxes go to them and they turn around and kill us. So they were trying to kick the police out of their neighborhoods from patrolling, because of course that's just like Carlito just said. They don't preemptively, stop anything for, I would say, 95% of the time. Maybe if they're driving by and they see somebody breaking into a house, maybe that could be a way of them preventing something from happening.
And even then, I tell you why they wouldn't, because the Supreme Court ruled that the cops have no, it's not in the job description that they don't have to put their lives in danger to protect yours.
Wow.
They took it all the way to the Supreme Court because, you know, somebody thought like, yeah, you're a cop. You're supposed. I forgot how the case started originally, but the final decision by the Supreme Court was that the cops do not have to put themselves in danger in order to protect you.
Wow.
So even then, there's no guarantee that they're going to protect anything, even if they're in the scene of the crime. Because as you all well know, the first thing they say when they kill an unarmed person is like, I fear for my life. That's the first thing they say. Yep. And the Supreme Court again said that it's a reasonable expectation of fear. So they are able to, you know, kill whoever the hell they want pretty much. They just got to say those words. I fear for my life.
Terrible.
Support policies, not politicians. Just set and qualified immunity, which I think is one of the most important ways to start on the track of fixing the police. And for people that don't know, that's exactly what Carlitos was saying. Qualified immunity means that if you say that you felt your life was in danger, then it's an immunity against any crimes that you commit, especially murder of unarmed people.
Arrest the cops that killed Breonna.
100%. I'm gonna play this video
cop that killed the guy in Rochester. The guy had mental issues. His brother called the cops for help. They handcuffed him, put a bag on his head, put him on the ground, lean on his face, and killed him. And the grand jury didn't indict.
Yeah, I saw recently on Ari Melber's show on MSNBC. He showed a case of a guy that he jaywalked, and it actually had you saw that, right? They had the video of the body cam of the cops before they approached the guy, and one of the cops was saying, "Hey, you know, he didn't really do anything," and the other cops was like, "No, we gotta go talk to him. Gotta go talk to him." So it was a preventative. They didn't even have to start anything with that guy. So they went and got out the car, said, "Hey, you was jaywalking." The guy was like, don't touch me," and they ended up killing him because they grabbed him, put him on the ground, and then they said, "Oh, he got my gun," and then somebody shot him twice. I think the other cop shot him twice.
Listen, there's a story that just remember. I believe it was in North Carolina. There was a call for, again, somebody that was mental issues. He may have a knife, maybe nothing, but a cop that was a veteran that's been in the military in action, he recognized that the guy was going through some kind of trauma. So instead of trying to kill him automatically, he went and tried to calm him down, because he recognized that what this guy needed was somebody just to help him out. Well, he got fired. The cop got fired because his boss said that he put his fellow officers in danger by not killing that guy.
Wow. Yeah, I think that sounds right. I think I heard that story too.
So that's why Felipe was right. They don't do cops.
Wow. All right, I'm gonna play one more video. We'll play this real quick. And this is Fred Hampton having wishful thinking.
And basically, people are revolutionary. We're not worried about them killing anybody because I think that, you know, they jailed Huey P. Newton, they ran Cleve out the country, Elvis Cleve out the country, and they jailed Bobby Seale. And we got David Head up there now, who's very capable, most capable of running the Black Panther Party. And they can just take all of them they want to. We always want to have someone to fulfill that position because that's the type of organization the Black Panther Party is. We don't produce buffoons, we produce leaders. And everybody in the Black Panther Party on any type of cadre, he's becoming a leader. We can, our Deputy Minister of Health in the state of Illinois can run the Black Panther Party, and so can anybody on this cadre. So all that they're involved in is an excursion in futility, because anybody that tries to deal with wiping out the leadership of the Black Panther Party is dealing with a time wasting. It's a futile effort to seize some type of power that can never be seized because it's a type of flowing power, and it's a type of unending flow of this power. Every time somebody moves, we're just producing more and more people, you know. And you know how the story goes. They had a chance if wiping out power is what's got them in the mess they're in now. Wiping out power is that's what's got the Black Panther Party on their asses, you know, because they wiped out so much power. So I think they about tired of wiping out power. They wiped out Martin Luther King and they wiped out Malcolm X, you know what I mean? And they wiped out all these people. These people were produced. So I think that in the near future, you'll see programs initiated by the government that they'll probably have the CIA protecting people like us. Because when they wiped out Huey P. Newton, Elvis Cleaver popped up, I know very well that they said we wish to God that we had kept Huey P. Newton on the scene because this motherfucker's out of his mind. And basically, people are revolutionary. We're not worried about them killing.
Yeah, she said he believed the CIA. I don't know if he was joking or if he was serious, but he thought the CIA would protect him. But unfortunately, he was wrong. They killed him. They killed Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and I thought about it. I was like, I read a book about the history of the Black Panthers, and it did touch on the fact that every time the police did atrocities towards the Black Panthers, they did gain sympathy, not that they didn't have before. You know, when they first started, you have the NAACP, and they had a lot of moderate organizations that look at them as really radical. But then when you had the police killing their leaders and killing various members, and especially killing Fred Hampton, you know, Jesse Jackson was at his funeral, and it garnered a lot of attention towards the Black Panthers. It helped them raise a lot of money. It got them a lot of support. At that point, the NAACP and other moderate organizations were very sympathetic. So it seemed like they got stronger when, unfortunately, when leaders got killed. But I think there is something that there's only one Fred Hampton. You know, there's only one Martin Luther King. There's only one Malcolm X. So even though one of the statements that he loved to say was, you can kill a revolutionary, but you can't kill a revolution. Well, when you kill somebody like Fred Hampton, we don't have any coalition, any rainbow coalition going on to this day. What you guys think?
In the movie case, the part after the cops burned down the headquarters, the Crowns that did not want to get involved with the Black Panthers, they saw what the cops did, and they came out and helped rebuild, and they joined up. Yeah, and so historically it did help them to a certain extent, but I think that leadership was gone. Like, he was supposed to continue. I mean, that was before he was murdered, though.
Yeah,
so,
because he was in jail.
Right. Yeah. The atrocities of the police made people have more like sympathy or empathy towards the Black Panther movement.
So he was the co-founder of the Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party. And from what I understand, from what I read, he was going to become the chief of staff and be a part of the central committee, right? So that's like another level at the level right under Huey Newton and those guys. So he was on his way up to probably being the main guy and main leader. And who knows how he could have taken that Rainbow Coalition mentality and that organization to a national level, what he could have done.
Imagine he was able to display that across the world, that, hey, we have the Rainbow Coalition here. We're working together over here.
That's why I said earlier.
We can accomplish here.
So that's why I said earlier, I don't know that the world would look the same had Fred Hampton survived to the internet.
Yeah, 100%. All right, I'm gonna play this. I lied. This is the last video only because it has one of the young patriots older. It shows him when he's older. Like
this is for Alan.
Yeah, this is for Alan. Oh, Alan Amberster. He said, "What I'm."
Young patriots in Chicago discontinued the use of the Confederate flag. We got into the Rainbow Coalition. We had to take a completely different look at the meaning of that flag. After a point, we thought there's no use for that flag here anymore. What that flag really stands for is hate.
Yeah, so that was a good video. The full video just talks about it's on YouTube, and it talks about the whole Rainbow Coalition, how it came together. And one of the points that I want to bring up was that Fred Hampton, he went and approached the young patriots to gain their support. He saw they were young, they were getting abused by the cops, but one of their symbols was the Confederate flag. And one of the things that that young patriot said, that he didn't disrespect them for having that symbol or having that flag, and he still accepted them. You know, that's something that I can't fathom that happened today. If somebody organizations had the Confederate flag, they would be canceled. But here you have Fred Hampton, he's just a genius at building coalition, because look at this, years later, he said that he was convinced, and I don't even know if Fred Hampton directly convinced them to take down the Confederate flag as one of their symbols, but it happened. They realized on their own that this was a symbol of hate, and they took it down. So what if Fred Hampton right from the beginning said, hey, we're not even going to talk to you because you have that Confederate flag on your hat or on the wall or da-da-da, that would have been it. But he was such a genius at bringing people together that he just knew how to do it. All right, any last words before we wrap up the show? Carlito.
Yeah, that's where I would have failed, because I mean, I wouldn't take him, like, cross them out from the beginning, but at least I would have told him something about it. Because if you think enough of that flag, to put it as your symbol, you got to know its history. Yeah. And if you know its history, you know that it's nothing but hate related to that flag. So some people just don't want to be convinced and things like that. But I did want to say one thing, that, you know, when you mentioned Bobby Rush, you know, how, you know, I think Felipe was saying how if Fred Hampton would have been the same over time, he would have changed, kind of like how Bobby Rush, we not sure how to feel about him because of his endorsement of Bloomberg. There's another person in the article from Ferrari that I was surprised to see in there that kind of changed for the worse. And there was a little paragraph talking about how when Bobby Seale was in his trial, you know, a fake trial for murder he wasn't even involved in, they bound him and gagged him, and it was, you know, really atrocious to be having that in an American courtroom. And a young law student was so appalled that started to mobilize against that and got people together and petitions, whatever. And that young lawyer was Hillary Rodham.